Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Marco Ciappelli, and this is Once Upon a Time Tomorrow. And today, if you're watching the video, you may be thinking, what happened to Sean and Raphael? And the answer to that is that we don't know. They they didn't show up for some reason. We hope they're fine. And I think it's, we got to respect that, Kerry. It's their privacy.
We do. To the whole privacy thing we were just talking about. Hi, folks. This is Kerry D'Souza here. But I mean, it's kind of funny you said that we don't know where Raph and Sean are. But if you really wanted to find out, and we just track their social media posts, we potentially can figure out what they're up to, and that seems to be the norm. And more, we are willingly sharing our data online, yet at the same time we also want more security and more privacy. So I mean, that seems a bit contrarian to me. Like, I want to tell you where I am, but I don't want you to know where I am. Does that make sense? That's what it seems to me.
I want to show you my selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower, but I don't want you to know where I am. You're kind of battling this need to be on social media of sharing everything, but also, hey, you still need to respect my privacy when I decide not to share something. So what does privacy mean now?
Yeah, well, so does that mean that, okay, you know that I'm in Paris, but you don't know where I'm staying or what I'm doing or what I'm doing unless I share with you? So again, that's the confusing bit, right? I mean, there's this case that more and more people are saying, do not sell my data. When we buy stuff on credit card, we sign up on website. Everybody's saying, do not sell my data. But yet at the same time, so there's two reasons to not sell the data. Are they concerned that people are going to monetize that data and they're not going to see any of it? Or the other concern is, if you have my data, then you know exactly what I'm doing and where I'm going to go. But the latter bit, I'm already doing that. Every time I do a post on Instagram or tell people on LinkedIn or announce my whatever I'm doing on Twitter, or which is now X, we are willingly telling people what's going on. So so in my generation, privacy, or I'm guessing you and I, Marco, for us, privacy meant that, hey, if I tell you something, great, that's public knowledge, do what you want. And most of the stuff, it's private. What I do, my birthday parties with my friends and stuff, very private. I'll take pictures, but share with very few friends. But that seems to have gone away. And privacy today seems to be more like, hey, stranger, look what I'm doing. I'm climbing Yosemite, or I'm climbing, or I'm hiking through Yosemite, and look what a gorgeous picture it is. Yet I'm also going to be upset if you now know where I am and start sending me ads or start sending me. So if an REI looks at it and say, oh, this person likes hiking, and I'm going to start sending ads to them to buy more stuff. So is that what privacy means? That I can tell you where I am and what I'm doing, but you're not allowed to use that data to do anything? Is that what we are thinking of privacy?
I think where you're going with this is, can you decide to turn on and off? If we were talking about cybersecurity, we will call it maybe control, right? Like, what would you want it to share at any given time when it's you have a return by sharing something? Because, okay, let's take Amazon as an example. They know what you buy and they suggest you things. I mean, they kind of invented that in a way, and or Netflix, right? I mean, we talked about this in the past, and music, and it's kind of cool. Like, if you don't know, I don't like this kind of things, don't suggest it to me. But at the same time, you do know. And I think that the bottom line is that people are not really realizing how much they are sharing, and they are not willingly sharing, maybe, but they don't realize to the extent of what it's gonna come back to them. It's not just the good product, but also sharing the fact that, I don't know, maybe you're going through some health issues and you're looking for something that by aggregating the data, it's easy to see. And maybe you don't want to share that.
And that's a scary part, right?
It's tough. It's tough because you don't know, and often you can. I mean, I know, but I realize sometimes, screw it, just whatever, get the cookies. What do you do?
And the cookie thing is another one, right? The cookie thing is a bit of a joke. Like, who really has time to do when you're browsing online? Do we really go? I do that for some sites, but it's hard. I mean, you go through and you have to select which cookies you want, and so the default seems to be accept all. So what have we really done except basically legally cover our asses? I mean, that's what I think most companies legally have covered their asses and said, right, we've told you and you accepted it, so now we can do whatever we want. So we've literally put a band-aid on top of.
But do you think that the everyday user? I mean, you love technology. We both talk about even the title of this series, which again usually is 4 of us, but it's two. It's like Once Upon a Time, Tomorrow. We like to compare the analog with the digital and what technology used to be and what it is now. I'm wondering if both actually, the native mobile generation, like smartphone, internet, but also people like us, do we know to what extent we are dealing with? I mean, maybe we do because it's kind of our job. You are also in security, and and I talk about that all the time, but the everyday person doesn't really care anymore. And do they
don't understand do they understand the concept? I mean, for me, that's the thing, right? I mean, I see parents posting their minor kids' photographs and whereabouts, and I think that's where, for me, that's sort of a gray area where, okay, the minor kid's not able to make decisions they're not able to make decisions for themselves, and the parents are basically doing this for their benefit, getting clicks on social media. So imagine a kid, by the time he or she or they go to college, everything about them is already known. So there's nothing new to discover. People can just look at their social media profile or their parents' social media profile and say, I already know these things. Now, there's a good and bad part of it. It can maybe it can allow the college or the institution to sort of organize groups where they see people easily assimilating with each other and getting along nicely. But the flip side is that there is nothing new to discover. There's no discovery. Like, I already know everything about you. I have now data that I can potentially use or misuse to manipulate you. And I think that's what people don't realize. Like, I'm just using a very simple example, oversimplifying. If I say my kid's favorite thing is chocolate cake, and that person will do anything for chocolate cake, it's a weakness. Now, somebody reading in college, like, all right, if I want this person to do my homework, or I can just bribe them. So stuff like that. I mean, I'm just oversimplifying, but I'm just saying that data, and how powerful data can be, and how bad it can be in the wrong hands. And then and while our kids don't know the implications of sharing stuff, do we as adults have a responsibility to sort of, I mean, in this TikTok and Snapchat and Facebook generation, do we have responsibility to educate people about, hey, data once out there is there permanently, and while it might get you likes today, 5 years later, that data might be the exact thing that you don't want online.
Yep.
So how do we?
Yeah, I just published an episode actually, and it's a book. It's called "Growing Up in Public: Coming of Age in a Digital World," and this is what with an expert. And it was an amazing conversation where she's talking about all these things. Like, we as parents or as younger generation, we put everything online, and can we evaluate what the consequences of this is? And we do it so freely. And I'm thinking about what you just said, and like when you have the questions to prove that the account yours, like the city you were born, your first car, your favorite movie, and I can put anything I want because you don't know. I mean, until the internet. Now you may know where I was born, of course, but what was my first car? I didn't post a picture of my first car on the internet. Now, technically, you can go back from the day that somebody was born and rebuild an entire, I mean, I'm going dystopian here, but you can rebuild an entire persona of this individual because you know everything or most of the thing that this person has done. And he wasn't even this person that posted. The parents did, the grandparents did, their uncle did.
Some detail, like you said, what's your favorite car, your favorite restaurant, your first time you met so and so. That's a lot of personal data. Well, I mean, I never, and this is something for people that if you ever encounter that kind of question, don't put the city you were born in. Just choose a random city that you can remember, and use that. Don't choose your favorite car. Choose something else that you can remember. So that way. And the other thing is, like, what's your favorite song? Like, my favorite song changes every week.
I know, right? But your first car doesn't. That's your first car. So yeah, you're gonna have to lie. You have to lie.
So that makes it interesting, right? So there's certain data that is I would say non-permanent, right? But your first car, your date of birth, the city you were born in, this is permanent. It is literally written in stone as far as you're concerned. Now, if that is out there, it is just people can, like you said, build your whole history and sort of predict what potentially, with enough data, can predict what you might be able to do. So they might. And I'm looking at just the nefarious side of it. They might be able to say, all right, if we want Marco to act a certain way, this is the kind of inputs we need to feed him. And now we've totally, so they're manipulating you subliminally, or they're very, like a subversive. I'm guessing advertising agencies and marketing companies do that all the time. But now this is going to a different level. So that's
never mind that, which is important. I mean, there's always been the will to classify a specific niche, a target audience. And I remember one of the thing I used to, when I used to study a lot of branding and advertising, even back in the 50s and the 60s, like, Madison Avenue, the biggest agency in New York. The truth is that they were psychologists. I mean, you study the sociology, the psychology of how a certain message can make you react in a certain way, but you didn't really know exactly who was going to react. So I remember Henry Ford used to say, I know that half of what I spend in advertising is wasted, but I don't know which half is, right? You're getting the return, it works. But then with digital marketing, we actually know what is that 50% that works. We even know what is that 10% that works. And as you get granular, you said, you could technically apply that to even more than just selling a product. You can do social engineering online and with AI, and now we can bring the famous artificial intelligence in the conversation. You can do it even more.
You can automate the whole thing, right? I can just feed a bunch of data and say, all right, tell me 5 things that Marco's going to do next week. And that's going to be faster, easier.
And probably accurate.
and probably fairly accurate, and the accuracy just is going to. So then, do we then decide and say, maybe the other form of security, other form of privacy is, if you show everything to everyone, there's nothing more to see. People lose interest, or people like no one person can have an advantage over you. It's a term in cybersecurity. If people know exactly what's going on, then they know you want to do things in the open, so everybody knows what's going on. So anything outside of that is seen as an anomaly. So is that the world we are going into, where everything is out in the open? And so once it's out in the open, there is no unfair advantage that somebody can take over you. But
it's a big question.
Where do governments come into this? We already seen that in China. Basically now they're saying that, hey, if you're a bad citizen, there are certain perks that's taken away from you. And so are we heading to a dystopian 1984 situation? I mean, we probably in some ways
Black Mirror episode.
Well, yeah, that was crazy, wasn't it? Like where the guy had to come and replay the last 24 hours or 48 hours, and now everything. So is that the society we are heading towards? And more importantly, is that what we want?
And also another thing is, do we have a choice? Because that's the other.
I was going to say, I'm assuming at this point, there's literally no choice. I mean, if you are using a cell phone, which a majority of the population of the planet is, and if you forget cell phones, if you're using credit cards anywhere, even if you take yourself off internet and you decide you're going to still use the landline, most societies are sort of moving towards a cashless society. So, and using credit card, I mean, I think they have more data than anybody else. So we do we then, instead of trying to worry about privacy and cookies and stuff like that, figure out, okay, this is already out there. How do we live with it, and how do we move forward from here in such a way that that somebody who has access to personal data about someone else cannot take advantage of them, or cannot without their consent? Where does consent come into this? That's an interesting one. Where does the consent come into this?
Okay, I'm gonna bring something up here that is even before the internet. When you go to, and there was a special not too long ago on NPR. So you do the fidelity card from a big store. Let's say a store that you go every day. Let's say a big chain.
You mean a loyalty card, like a loyalty card? Yeah.
Yeah, a loyalty card. So you go there every other day, you buy your food, you buy your medicine, you buy whatever they sell in that store. And then you get the fat discount. And they know who you are. You know where you live, you're using discount coupons, and they bribe you with that. But the one thing that they were explaining is that when they get the data on you, even if you think they do it to give you a better service to you, the truth is that they're selling their data to third parties for a lot of money. Yeah. So your data is out there. They may say it's encrypted or anonymized or whatever you want, but we know we can always reconnect things. And in that case, it wasn't really anonymized, because then you will get something in the mail to promote a service. They're like, how do they know that I like this stuff? Well, I guess what? The point is that you did not know that your data that you gave to your favorite store, it was going to be then resold, and resold till the guy, or the girl do the telemarketing call to you, because they know how to get you. So right. I'm going back again in once upon a time before the internet. There was already a reality like this, but maybe it was so much smaller.
That's how marketing has always worked, right? That's how marketing is. I mean, that's how people kind of understood trends and stuff like that.
But here's a question for you. But if you knew, and by you I mean anyone, that data to get that discount was going to be resold and resold with your name attached to it, and your address, your phone number, which, by the way, back in the day, you can just open a phone book and find your number. So where's the privacy there, right? My point is, would you still be okay with that because they give you a discount. Like you feel you're compensated with a value when you give something away.
I think we all like that. We all like them, and it's the whole, why would I pay full price for this if giving you a bit of my data, which you're going to get anyways?
But what if you could say, no, you don't get this, and I pay the full price? Then who do they take advantage of? The people that need the discount in order to buy? Do we have a digital divide? Do we have a, I don't know.
I don't think that's what it is. I mean, I think the number of people, even the most staunch privacy advocates, they all love loyalty points. They all love, it's just depending on, well, I was reading this book called Anthony Bourdain's, it's a audiobook. It's beautifully narrated. I forget the name. It's not called No Reservation. It is bugger it. I have to, but he mentioned it. He's like, you know, in the end, we all have a price.
Yeah.
You might not want a discount from Target, but let's say you go to Best Buy and you want to buy an expensive refrigerator or appliance, and there a 10% on a $15,000 refrigerator is quite a lot. Then you're like, yeah, you know what? There you go. Great. So I think the way I look at it, I think privacy has a price, and we all have a price at which point we don't care about privacy.
Weakness of the human mind.
Human condition. It's a human condition. And that's been going on over. It's not new, as you mentioned. It's going on from before, where currency was used. And I think the whole from the barter days, I'm like, people knew who wanted what. We sort of call it different. So that's the other thing, the concierge service. When I go to a restaurant, there's a couple of restaurants I frequent, they know exactly what I want, and they ask me the usual. Love it. Love the fact that I'm there, and then I don't have to. And the usual. But that's but that's data too, right? That's data being used, but now it's being used to where I benefit from it, so I don't care.
And where it's still contained, right? I mean, it's still at a manageable size, right? I mean, you live in a small town, and you do want to go to, to the place where they know your name. You want to go where everybody knows your name, and like that famous.
Yeah, and some restaurants have done that well.
Yeah,
they will even. I think we went to a vacation somewhere, and from the time we were checking in at the reception, by the time we left the reception or the front desk and checked into our room, everybody sort of knew our names and where we are dining. So over the 3 days we stayed there, by the end of second day, I think our preferences were known by the staff, which felt great. But like you said, it's very contained. Once we leave, potentially that data goes away. It's sort of maybe
you come back the year after, and they do have a little bit of a note on you. I mean, I guess a good concierge will do that, and so you come back and you're like, "Oh, welcome back, Mr. Souza."
So how is that different then?
But bring it to the next level where everybody could know what is your favorite restaurant because you just went into Yelp and left 5 stars and said, this is great. This is my favorite dish. And now you're not telling it to the hotel. You're not telling it to the restaurant. You're telling
the whole world. Right?
It is there forever. So
the question is that being used? I mean, Yelp is a great example. I mean, Yelp has been around for 12 years, 13 years. And we've been, that was before Facebook or around Facebook. And there was Foursquare before that. So we were putting stuff out there.
TripAdvisor, now that you really know where everybody's been going, build your map here. Airbnb, now they know how much you spend, how much you can afford, where have you been, and given Airbnb is probably not public, but Squarespace.
Well, it's sort of, right? I mean, it's sort of, but so given all of this stuff, like even you and I, who are sort of a little bit old school, is privacy or the whole privacy or privacy advocates, are they just basically chasing something that does not exist, a ghost chase, or is it time for us to take a step back and redefine privacy and say privacy 50 years ago was completely different than what privacy is now, and privacy maybe even 20 years from now will be absolutely different than even the kids today. So we're getting to a point where there'll be driverless cars and you'll be calling, you never have to drive. So there you go. I mean, now everything, people know exactly what time you wake up and leave for office and where you go and all of that stuff. So is it time for us to take a step back and say, instead of fighting this whole don't share my stuff, a better way would be share my stuff, but let me know where you're sharing it? And is that a better way? Like, tell me who you're sharing it with and how they're going to use it. And I'm still not going to stop you, but at least I know this is happening. Because
I was talking about Web3 a while back, and this idea that I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but one of the idea about Web3 was about the fact that you have all the information encrypted, you carry it with you, and it's kind of like when you want to display your health record to another doctor, you can say, okay, here's my code, I'm sharing with you one time, I'm deciding it, and then I'm going to close it back. And so
kind of funny.
This idea, yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, IMPass, my company, that's one of the things we do, control document access. So I can send you access to my document, and I can say, all right, 20 minutes, you've gone through this, I'm revoking it, and you have no control over it. We don't even need new Web3.
So
this is conventional Web4.
So for me, this conversation, it is about a new redefinition of privacy, although I think privacy is different culture. They have different approach of privacy. I mean, we know in Europe, it's a little bit more than in the US, but in the US, you can come into my garden, even if there is no fence, because if I shoot you, I'm actually right, because it's my private property, but so the privacy means different thing in different culture. But I think at the bottom line of our conversation, it seems to me that is about me willing to share it with you or not. And if you're taking this information of mine, consent, without my authorization, then you're infringing my privacy. But if I tell you my secret, I'm the one that is doing it. But you shouldn't give my secret to someone else. So if hey, Carrie, I have can you keep a secret? Don't tell it to the other friends, right? When we were a kid, we used to do that. And then you knew there was somebody that somehow was going to tell someone else, and then the secret was out. So this idea of managing the access, the Web 3.0, or what you're doing now with your new company, that's what I think we should go into nowadays, is I can take it back and I can give it.
So how do you prevent something like, public platforms like privately owned companies who've got public platforms like Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or X, where you're willingly storing, and where they basically tell you, like, hey, if you're on the platform, the data is public. How do we? So do people then need to tell people, or do we need a new platform that then allows you to give consent? And then if you do that, then how is that different from back in the day? The whole point of having a social media platform is that you are reaching people you don't know or may never know, but they get to see what you posted. So,
but you're the one that decide to post that. So then it's on you.
How do we prevent it? Right?
But what? Like you need to tell people, look.
Once it's left the table, you can't. It's like taking the toothpaste. Once you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube.
I know, but maybe you need an alert. Maybe you need an alert that says, hey, before you post this picture of you being drunk in public or being stupid or having fun, remember, this is forever.
But
So
the alert
it's like,
is an important bit. I mean, I think people already know that. It's like putting warning labels on cigarette packets. I mean, while people who smoke still look at it, and nobody reads it, right? So the alerts are going to have similar. People are going to get desensitized to the alerts, but the alert bit, I think the other bit could be. I mean, this could be an interesting concept where if I share something on Instagram and it's out there, it potentially can alert me if somebody else is reposting it or sharing it. That could be potentially, I'm not even sure if it's possible. I don't know the implications of that. But that's where maybe some level of consent can come in, if at all.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it's why I remember the time when we were developing website that you would put could stop a photo from being downloaded, right?
Right.
And then you're like, look, it's a joke because everybody can take a screenshot. If it's on the internet, it's there. It's kind of like when a celebrity posts something bad and then they take it down. Somebody already screenshot that. And
people have got screenshotting apps running in the background. They just screenshot. I mean, you can bookmark it or you can watermark it, which takes away the integrity of the image. And there are programs that will remove watermark. I mean, there's AI applications out there that will remove watermark easily. So the question here is then maybe it's a good time to take a good hard look at what is privacy. It's definitely not accept cookies or select cookies, because that's absolute utter nonsense. I think it's absolute rubbish. It's not doing anything. Nobody's benefiting from that. It's just another additional layer of cost. It's like a Band-Aid on a deep cut which needs stitches. Maybe just putting it back. So maybe stop all of that and take it away.
But how?
I also feel
look, when you're reading, when Apple or Facebook or any other company send you, we change our policies. Privacy policy. Here is your 35 pages written in Helvetia's, 12. Are you gonna read it? At a certain point, you trust the company or you don't, right? You trust the company or you don't. Another thing that I do, and this is my personal advice, is I know that if I'm using a free service, I know I'm the product. I'm not the customer.
If you're using a free
service,
I'm
paying for something, then I may be entitled of some sort of different respect or right. Right. So that's another thing. I mean, I feel like people want everything free because we make them believe that Facebook is free, that Twitter is free, and all the other social media is free.
They're not multi-billion-dollar companies.
Exactly, but they're IPO and they're worth so much money because they sell advertising. Wonder how do they do that?
Yeah, how do they make some money? I don't know, Marco. I think it's time to take a good hard look at privacy, and maybe a lot of the privacy nonsense is also the legality of it, right? I mean, a lot of people, there are a lot of law firms just making it. Everybody, half the terms and conditions, if you look at it, mean nothing except to protect the company whose platform you're using, is protect them. Like in case this gets leaked or somebody else uses it, just so that you have given us consent for it. And I think it's the whole, you have indemnified us from any future lawsuits and stuff like that. And there's that's the legal side of stuff. It's also a big variable in that. Like that's a big one too. And in this country, unfortunately, anyone can sue anyone. So that makes it even more tricky.
And sorry, my dog. And then there are the thing too is like,
you have a dog. I can send you pet products.
Exactly. Well, I have one on my profile too on online, so everybody knows that. But I think the problem is also that it's all over the places. So you mentioned that, like, how many times are you going to say no to the cookies when you've been on that website and then you come back and they ask you again, but you're already opt-in by default and you have to opt out. First of all, I think you should always be opt out by default and you actually opt in. So regulation is important, but then as a European citizen, let's say you are not in Europe, then you're not subject to the cookie GDPR regulation. But as an American, if you are in Europe, then you are dealing with all the GDPR regulation. So it's the internet. It's everywhere. How do you put boundaries on it?
I think the way I look at it, and there's no way, you can anonymize the data, you can encrypt the data, you can do whatever the heck you want for it. There's enough data out there. If somebody wants to build a profile of you and decide they want to build a persona and sell you stuff or do stuff which allows them to tailor stuff for you, I think that's enough data out there. I think the thing is that if you don't want people to know about stuff, don't post it online. I think that's the only thing I can say. Like, be careful. Be careful about you, what you post about your kids. Let them make the decisions. It's like don't make the decisions for them. And don't, like, birthday parties and stuff. Great to share with relatives who are not there, but why does it need to be on Instagram or Facebook or X, where everybody in there, or Snapchat, where everybody and their aunt can look at it? Why do you care? Do you really have 1,000 friends who care? Nobody gives a rat's ass about your kid's birthday or what you did, unless you're a travel writer and you're going all the places and they want to know your stuff. But otherwise, like most people, celebrities are classic examples. All the celebrities who've got millions of followers, and they use it to do what? Basically, they get paid. They use their follower. They are the advertising now. They, instead of advertising banners, now you've got celebrities wearing these things and influencing people. So, and
often they're paid a lot of money to do that. But me as a normal individual, we just, it makes me think like that 15 minutes of fame, Andy Warhol back in the 70s when he said that. Now you get the fame when you don't want it. You are.
I was going to say, intermediate. What you're proud of today could be something you're not really proud of maybe 5 years from now. Who knows? I mean, there are a lot of things that we do on the spot at the moment, and you post it, and then we think it's great. People are liking it and hearts and stuff. But 3 years down the line, you might be in a life situation where that data should not be public. So that's something I personally think.
It may cost you a job. It may cost you a political career.
Make your insurance premiums higher. Like, for example, somebody races motorcycles and crashed a bunch of bikes, and you're proud of it. I crashed and I survived. But guess what? 3 years later, you go to buy a new bike, and they're like, your insurance is going to be like 5 times the cost, because you know what? You've been crashing bikes and posting stuff. So it's you've got to be careful about what you post out there, knowing that privacy, as we know, that's my take. I think privacy, as we know, is gone. The cookie stuff and the GDPR is all absolute rubbish. It does not protect you. It only protects the companies that they just don't want to be sued. Just be more diligent about what you post out there, and understand that it's not today. Understand the consequences of your data in the future. Once upon a time, tomorrow. It's a classic. It's a great. This is great. Like, think about the future.
Yep. I agree. And I think to close here, it's exactly very, very similar to our first episodes, where we said you can fight as much as you want, but the train of in that case was generative AI, has left the station. We talk about movies. So if you get the opportunity, just go back on the first episode and listen to it. But we ended up saying it's here to stay. We cannot shut the door and roll back. We need to learn how to deal with it. And I think the best way to learn how to deal with it is to be conscious that it exists, even in our case, and really think about what we do and adapt to it, like we've always done. That's the good thing about being human. We're pretty good at adapting.
Yep.
But we need to think about stuff a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think that's the lesson today, Gary.
It is. Privacy, as you know, has changed. Your data is out there. Stop paying attention to GDPR and privacy policies and stuff like that. Understand, take a little bit of responsibility for your own data, and know that it's out there, and perhaps learn how to use it learn how to use it versus trying to fight it.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. It's worth to open the hood and look at the engine once in a while, like new social media you're about to subscribe to, the new gadget that is connected to the internet, like know where that information go, and then you can make your decision. If you don't care, you don't care. At least you know, and you consciously don't care.
Why are you posting that? And that's a great question to ask. I think that's what I would lead people before you post anything or anything publicly. Ask, what's the motivation for you to post it? Is it just to get a few likes and hearts, or is it really meaningful to somebody else? And then the other question to ask is, okay, a year from now, would you still be happy that this data is out there that can be used? Because after the first 30 seconds, the people who are giving you likes no longer care. They're never going back to it. But that data is there permanently, and is that something you're okay with? So the why becomes important. Like, why am I posting this, or why does this need to go up?
And why do I need to be on that social media? Do I need to be in every possible social media existing there just because it's there? It's it's a little bit too much, and it's a lot of pressure. I can see a kid being like, social pressure. We all doing something, and you need to do it too. Otherwise, you're going to be the awkward in the group. And I think you should be able to do whatever you want to do, but use your brain and use your judgment. Not because everybody does it, you need to do it as well. So that's the lesson. Kerry, thank you for your time. We ended up doing a good 40 minutes. And maybe next time we'll talk about music and AI as we were planning. And we'll figure out where. We're going to do a little open source investigation here and figure out where Raphael and
let's do the Marcos. Time to look at Marcos and Raph post. See what they've been up to.
You better have a good excuse.
They better have a good excuse, especially if Sean's posting pictures from London and he's telling me that he's sick. I'm not sure about that.
We'll figure it out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. There'll be notes, probably an excuse to write something for my newsletter in thinking about how privacy has changed with technology. So stay tuned. And Kerry, next time you'll find all the way to connect with Kerry on our notes if he wants to share it, because maybe private.
Absolutely, yes.
We don't know.
If it's out there in the public, if I've shared some stuff, it is for public consumption.
All right, bye everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening and watching if you're watching, and catch up next time. See ya.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you learned something new and this story made you think, then share ITSPmagazine with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our columns. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.